Good evening, everyone. This is the Committee of Precinct Chairs, April 16th, 2026, 7 o'clock p.m. here in Town Hall, the Great Hall Meeting Room in Plymouth, Massachusetts. This meeting is being conducted via a hybrid session. I call this meeting to order, and at this time, to confirm a quorum, I will go through the roll call. Precinct 1.
Kevin Larry here for Precinct 1.
Right there. Yeah, there you go.
Kevin Larry for Precinct 1.
All right. Precinct 2, Matt Tavares. Precinct 3.
Precinct 3, Dale Weber, where it all began.
Precinct 4.
Precinct 4, Charlie Votrain.
Precinct 5.
Precinct 5, Mike Leary.
Precinct 6. Absent. Precinct 7.
Precinct 7, Beth Gregg.
Precinct 8.
George McKay, Precinct 8.
Precinct 9.
Brian Harrington, Precinct 9, Vice Chair.
Precinct 10.
Precinct 10, Alan Costello.
Precinct 11.
Precinct 11, Lisa Murray.
Precinct 12.
Precinct 12, Pat Adelman.
Oh, Pat, you moved on me. Precinct 13.
Precinct 13, Ron Riley.
Precinct 14.
Precinct 14, Jeanette Kelly.
Precinct 15.
Precinct 15, where it continues, Wrestling Brewster.
Precinct 16.
Precinct 16, Pompey Delafield.
Precinct 17.
Precinct 17, Joe Hutchinson.
Precinct 18. Precinct 18 is absent. Okay. So that is a quorum. If you'll all stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you very much. Our first order of business on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from March 19th, 2026, which you have all received. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve. Seconded.
Motion to approve by Mr. Brewster, seconded by Pompey Delafield. Discussion. Hearing and seeing none, I will call for the roll. Precinct 1.
Abstain.
Precinct 2, abstain. Precinct 3.
Approved.
Precinct 4.
Approve.
Precinct 5.
Approve.
Precinct 6, still absent. I'm only calling out those that I know are absent in case they join us later via the hybrid method. Precinct 7.
Approve.
Precinct 8.
Approve.
Precinct 9. Precinct 10.
Precinct 10, approve.
Precinct 11.
Abstain.
Precinct 12.
Approve.
Precinct 13.
Approve.
Precinct 14.
Approve.
Precinct 15.
Approved.
Precinct 16.
Approved.
Precinct 17.
Approve.
Precinct 18, still absent. Okay. All right, thank you very much. So as we typically do, after the fall and Springtown meeting, we kind of do our Springtown meeting review this go-around, just like we do an October review. I have asked the moderator to come in to assist us with this review. So we have the moderator, Steve Trifletti, with us, and we also have the assistant moderator, Nicole Manfredi, with us, and they both were able to join us via Zoom this evening. I do want to speak to just the agenda very briefly. You will see that the Springtown meeting review is kind of broken up into two pieces. It's a little bit different than what we've done before. My reasoning behind this is due to the first piece is going to be kind of more focused on discussion with the moderator. And I also needed to assist with some people that needed to join us remotely or needed to be here for the presentation but needed to be elsewhere. The second piece, where it says Springtown Meeting Review 2026 amongst COPC chairs, that's where we can discuss any things we saw with the articles, any things we saw that precincts might start working on other articles within their own precincts, or kind of that type of general discussion. The first piece would be if you had any questions for the moderator or the assistant moderator, or any sort of discussions regarding the process of the meeting, how things were run, et cetera. Okay? So that's how we're going to start. And that being said, at this time, I'm going to invite Mr. Trifletti, the moderator, and Nicole Manfredi, the assistant moderator. Welcome to the meeting. Thank you for your work on Saturday. I will let you know that the floor is now yours, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Chair Matt Tavares, and to the Committee of Precinct Chairs. We're delighted to be here once again. And if you could bear with me, I'm going to give a brief presentation, followed by some remarks from Nicole Manfredi, and then we'll surely be available to answer questions. So I'd like to begin with some of the highlights from Saturday. Certainly, the Massachusetts Moderators Association has encouraged us to recognize and observe the 250th anniversary, which was done in the opening ceremonies. And I appreciate the patience of town meeting members for a ceremony that was a little bit longer. And we felt it was very important because not only is town meeting very much a part of the observance for 250, because much of the planning and preparation happened at town meetings, but in particular, Plymouth is at the focal point because of the Mayflower Compact and, as we say, where it all started with town meetings. So that was very successful. And another thing of which you can all be proud was the attendance. It's remarkable that you try to do calculating the percentages. 152 out of 162 town meeting members, and a very high percentage of in-person participation. And you're to be congratulated for maintaining a quorum for over 9 hours and getting through all of the articles. And for the most part, despite differences of opinion and competing motions, it was generally a civil meeting. There were some challenges. I did want to speak to the fact that when Mr. Lynch was attempting to do a point of order, it's a little nuanced, but the reason why he was out of order and why I gave them a warning was because he was doing it during voting. And so while a point of order can be raised at any point in a meeting, and it has priority, and it's supposed to be when you have a procedural question, the voting itself is sacred. And so we don't want to be interrupting the voting of town meeting members. It's only 20 seconds. And so I have followed up with a call to Mr. Lynch on Sunday. I have not yet heard back from him. The second challenge was the outburst from a town meeting member in Precinct 11, Jeffrey Fosdick. And at the time, at town meeting, all speaking is to go through the moderator. And if someone interrupts the meeting and has not been recognized, then as moderator, I can give a warning. And I did. And further, to take any further action at the meeting, town meeting time gives guidance, and the moderator needs to first warn the offender, to cease disorderly contact and conduct, and if the offender does not stop the disorderly contact, then there's a process by which the moderator could follow, but in this case, it did not continue. I've been asked, beyond the town meeting itself, what are some remedies for dealing with a disorderly town meeting member? And first, in our charter, in chapter 5, there's a recall provision, and the voters in precinct 11 could start in signatures for a recall petition, and then the voters of the precinct would then vote. Obviously, the other alternative is that voters can vote in the town election as to whether to return certain town meeting members. I want to talk a little further because I've gotten quite a bit of feedback about my response as moderator. The first thing that I attempted to do was determine what happened, because for those of us on the stage, I heard an outburst. I didn't know what was said or who said it. And then during the break that followed, I did seek to speak to the offender, but I was unsuccessful at that moment. I did speak, however, to the town meeting member who the outburst was, at which it was directed, and I assured her that I would address it. And I did. After the meeting, I spoke to the town meeting member, and we discussed what could be done in response to it, including apologies, which were done, and resignation as vice chair. Beyond that, I have responded to all calls and emails immediately from town meeting members as well as from the public. And I then sought to communicate to leadership, not only in town meeting, I spoke to your chair, Master Barnes, but I also spoke to other elected officials, including members of the select board, other elected boards and staff, so that there would be an understanding as to the appropriate response and how to deal with it. And then finally, I do have some recommendations. You may recall previously, after I attended the annual meeting of the Mass Moderator Association, I did communicate that this year the Mass Moderator Association is undertaking a theme of civic discourse and the importance of it. The association was very concerned about the lack of civility in meetings at the national level, and they were concerned that at the state level that we attempt to go right to the towns and to encourage that people engage in civil discourse. I also am going to recommend to town meeting members that we go back to the seating that we used to have when we used to have standing votes. We asked town meeting members to sit in the center section and the section to my right in the front part, not up in the grandstand seating. And so some town meeting members have been sitting in the back, and that may be a disincentive for some civility at the meeting, but also it's difficult for the moderator, the assistant moderator, and others to be able to see that far back in the room, and also, quite frankly, to hear people and recognize them when they come to the microphone in the back. So I'm going to encourage people to come to that center section. I've discussed with your chair about the need for a review of guiding principles, not only those adopted by you, but those adopted by the select board. And finally, I conduct a post-town meeting gathering of people who prepared and planned the town meeting, included staff, and included the chair of the select board, the chair of the planning board, the superintendent, staff, and we all met yesterday, and we discussed what are other things we could do. And one good suggestion was that we perhaps, that Nicole and I do a refresher forum with respect to procedure. And while outline procedures at the preview as well as at the start of town meeting. We're going to put together a video with the cooperation of the local scene. And so it's a video that town meeting members will be able to watch, and it will discuss certainly what I mentioned tonight, but many of the other fine points of procedure. And at this point, I'd like to invite Nicole Manfredi to give her comments.
Thank you.
Ready?
Hey there. Thanks for having me. A lot of what I was going to say really echoes what the moderator had said already. We're really pleased with the attendance. Consistently, attendance has been quite high since we've started doing the hybrid model. So 152 was really a great number. I'm also happy to share we had no technology issues with remote members. So while we did have a few folks that needed to call in and they required some problem solving, there were no technology concerns. We did have, and local scene handled it beautifully, there was a connectivity or a streaming issue, but that was an aside from the voting members. There were no tech issues with regards to town meeting members accessing the meeting. So that's important to note. I have the same concerns that the moderator shared. We did talk about seating, and that will be enforced going forward. It really is helpful, not only in times of conflict, but just when we run those meetings. It's really tricky to be able to scan the room, and there are folks kind of spread all over. And I'm specifically looking for folks who are having imminent problems or a point of order that needs to be addressed right away. So having everyone kind of corralled in that place is going to be helpful. Again, I do touch on, during my remarks, I do touch on respect. I have concerns about the level of decorum and the expectations that are held of town meeting members. That it's really not just about respect, but it's necessary for effective and transparent governance. And so I think it's really important that we have these conversations and we come up with, whether it's, we talked, as the moderator mentioned, some sort of parliamentary review, refresher. I would advocate that when things like this happen, in both of those instances from Saturday, that there's some sort of mandatory review of rules prior to the next meeting for the folks who we have to address. I would like to see that happen, but going forward, maybe we did talk about having a video so it's more accessible to folks that highlight some of those really important and emphasized parliamentary procedures and concerns. That said, from my side of the table, I've made several videos on how to navigate the hybrid model, and it's kind of, sometimes you feel that old, you can lead a horse to water, and so forth. So that's something we're considering for sure. I would like to emphasize, I think I've said this several times in the past, the importance of when a town meeting member is elected and they get sworn in, the importance of the understanding of the level of commitment. And a lot of what happens, a lot of the issues that come up, and it's not just, it's kind of across the board. Sometimes when folks get elected to town meeting, they interpret that as it's a 2-day-a-year commitment. And it's simply not. The expectation, and we have a handbook, but the expectation is that you attend your caucus meetings, you preview the material before you get to the floor. And it's a thankless job and it's an unpaid job, but that's what you signed up for. I just want to say to the chairs, we would really appreciate your support when you're talking to your committee members, and just emphasizing that this is governance that will direct the future of the community, and it's important. And I just want to make sure that priorities are understood and the expectations are clear and transparent as far as the roles and responsibilities of town meeting members. And that's really all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator and Assistant Moderator, for your comments. Before I open it up to the Committee of Precinct Chairs for discussion with the moderator and the Assistant Moderator, you all received this evening printed out copies that I printed out myself for you of the guiding principles for the town of Plymouth. These were adopted by the Select Board 13 years ago. They were reaffirmed by the Select Board last June. They have all been emailed out to all committee and town boards and committees. Read them is all I can say. Sometimes we get documents and we don't feel that we need to read them. And then make sure that your town meeting representatives within your caucuses have them as well. They should have them, but if they don't, I'd be more than happy to make sure that they get them, and we can send those over. That being said, you'll see a second document that even I wasn't fully aware of. There's a second piece of paper, and it's the Town of Plymouth Committee of Precinct Chairs Guiding Principles called Leadership. This was adopted by the Committee of Precinct Chairs on September 20th, 2012. And I'm going to read them into the record this evening, and you have them all in front of you. Basically, we took leadership and turned it into an acronym. So L in leadership is listen intently with an open mind. E, express yourself professionally. A, appreciate that you were elected to serve. D, define the issue, not the person. E, employ patience when faced with an opposing opinion. R, remember at all times you represent the community. S, serve to the absolute best of your ability. H, help your community to understand the issues. I, invest the time to be fully educated on all voting matters. And P, provide the facts surrounding every issue. These, in looking at these and going back to the guiding principles, they actually complement each other very well. And this committee adopted this leadership form for how we conduct ourselves, but I think that we could loosely send that down to our other precinct members to remember. But as far as the guiding principles for the town of Plymouth, I'm not going to read it verbatim, but one is to be patient, kind, and tolerant. 2, show respect in attitude, tone, and approach. 3, be inclusive, collaborative, and promote diversity. 4, show in your actions, attitude, and tone that excellent customer service is important to you. Retain the highest levels of integrity. 5, retain the highest levels of integrity in your performance, actions, and decisions. 6, strive to have a positive attitude about the governance of the town. 7, listen. 8, take responsibility. 9, be part of a great team. And I think what's interesting to me is that throughout several of those, the word tone is in there, and approach, and attitude, and also across our document as well. Far too much, I will echo the moderator's statements, far too much we all know that there are different sides of the aisle at the national level. At our local level, trickled down from the state, we're starting to see both sides of the aisle develop, and no one's listening, and no one's being compassionate, and people are being divisive. And this doesn't just involve when I go to different meetings and I watch what's going on in the room. This also includes things being said by town meeting members online to each other, things being said to the general public to each other. And while I can't discipline free speech, and I can just make my recommendation that you are an elected official within this community. I know I've said this before in this room, I know a lot of us say, I've heard some of us say, I'm not speaking here as a town meeting member. I hate to break it to you. When you are elected to a position anywhere in government, you are in that position 24/7. You took an oath. And you need to remember that. And underneath that, we have these guiding principles. So I'm not here to lecture. I just feel like I need, I know I sound like I'm the, somebody coming down, but I think it just needs to be affirmed, and it needs to be out there to those that are watching us online, those that are here in the room. And I just hope that you kind of agree with that and you take that back to your caucuses. But that being said, I'm not sure if the assistant moderator or moderator have anything to add to that. Otherwise, I'll bring it to the committee to ask any questions they may have.
I would just add that I think that all of what you presented is excellent. And one thing I didn't mention, and I don't want to get it too much into the weeds, but I just want people to understand, because there was a lot of distress about how things were handled. And town meeting times are parliamentary handbook. We've adopted that. There's a new fourth edition, which is very different than the prior editions in terms of disorderly conduct. And the reason is, there was a case in 2023 from the Supreme Judicial Court. It's called Barron and Calenda. It was in the context of a select board meeting with a designated public comment period. And the court held that although civility can and should be encouraged in political discourse, it cannot be required. So that's the law of the land in Massachusetts. The court went on to say, rather, we've concluded that political speech must remain uninhibited, robust, and wide open. And so part of the challenge for me as moderator and for all of you is that this case would tend to prevent a moderator from, admonishing someone who speaks impertinently, uses indecent language, or otherwise engages in a breach of decorum. However, certainly the moderator can give a warning when there's an outburst and when it clearly interrupts the meeting in an appropriate manner. But I wanted everyone to understand that there are limitations as to what the moderator can do within the scope of my authority, as to what the select board can do, as to what the town can do. And in this particular case, the power, if you will, really rests with the voters in a precinct where a town meeting member has been elected.
Okay, I'm going to bring it back to the Committee of Precinct Chairs here to go along with this discussion. I was contacted by Precinct 11, Lisa Murray, before the meeting that she would like to make a comment. So Lisa, go ahead.
Thank you. I reached out to the moderator as a member of Precinct 11, as a woman at town meeting, and I feel that it was not addressed appropriately. There was a fellow town meeting member from Precinct 17 that stepped up to the microphone after the outburst occurred and used a phrase of sexual harassment. That comment was not addressed. I understand there's rules. I understand we have that blue book that has all the rules in it that we follow. But the second that somebody stepped up to a public microphone at a public meeting that's being televised and accused someone of sexual harassment, it should have been recessed immediately, and it should have been immediately addressed. I don't feel that this was addressed appropriately at the town meeting. And as a woman, I'm extremely offended, because I feel that that gives any man in that room the right to say that phrase at any point, and they will be told, you need to be quiet or you will be removed, not you need to leave. And I feel that that person should have been asked to leave, or at least it should have been recessed immediately, not waiting before Article 37 happened, and it should have been addressed.
Would either the moderator or assistant moderator care to reflect on that?
I'd be happy to. I agree that the statements that were made were inappropriate, and I told Lisa Murray and I told anybody else. Part of the challenge is that I have certain statutory requirements, and if you go to town meeting time, and I have to refer to this because we have case law, we have statutory law, and we have parliamentary procedure. So on page 223, section 9.1, managing deliberation, it sets forth the process by which the moderator has to follow. It says here, a moderator should carefully follow the steps set out in the statute, and the town clerk should be certain to record the steps taken in the meeting minutes before ordering that someone be removed. And the first step is warn the offender to cease disorderly conduct. That was done. Then the next step would be, if the offender does not stop the disorderly conduct, then you direct them to withdraw from the meeting, and then if they don't withdraw, then you bring in law enforcement. So, part of the challenge here is that I am limited under the law as to what I can and can't do. In the United States, we have what's called due process, and that includes procedural due process. And procedural due process, one of the main points of that is that you give notice in advance. And so in this case, the notice is a warning. And so the warning was given. And beyond that, I've explained in my previous presentation all the other steps that I did after this that was within my authority to address what was said.
Mr.
Could
Delafield.
could I add something to that?
Yes, Ms. Manfredi.
I just want to kind of piggyback on what the moderator said, and while he is limited in what he can do procedurally within that meeting, there is always a police officer in that room. And if somebody feels threatened, that is their pathway for resolution if the moderator's hands are tied in a procedural way. So if somebody were truly feeling threatened, that's always, you can always report to the police officer and address it in that manner. Just so folks feel confident that if they're feeling threatened, that they have some sort of recourse. But we're kind of talking about two different things. We're talking about overseeing the parliamentary procedure of town meeting and the safety of folks in the space. And if that's the case, then that should be addressed with the officer in the room.
Thank you. I have Pompey, Alan, Dale, and then I'll go back to you, Lisa. Okay.
Thank you, Matt. I think it's really valuable that we have this conversation, and I appreciate what the moderator and Nicole have told us just now. I think those are important things to know. I do think that I just wanted to stress how, in general, well-run our meetings are, and how many people do observe what they should observe. And I'm very proud of that fact. And obviously, that doesn't belittle anything that is being said here tonight. But I think that just to offset that tone, we have to recognize a lot of things went right, and that the moderator did a very good job of controlling it, that it didn't get out of control. And I want to thank you and just stress the point that we shouldn't be all depressed at this.
Mr. Costello.
Yeah, I would argue that it did get out of control, and I appreciate what the moderator and the assistant moderator have told us, but I think there's a disconnect. They're not getting it. What they're talking about is procedural type actions. People are talking during debate. This happened totally separate of that. And I apologize, the woman from Precinct 11, this bordered on what might be a criminal act, and it was totally disregarded by our system. Great point. We have a police officer in the room. To my knowledge, the police officer did not even investigate the outburst, didn't even talk to anyone. And I can understand why. Maybe she wasn't directed to. I don't know why we have a police officer, what that expense is, but the police officer didn't render any assistance or support on Saturday. I got information throughout the weekend that another town meeting member had to go up to the police officer earlier in the day to complain about the two people from Precinct 11. And they were heckling, they were carrying on, and there was all kinds of inappropriate behavior by the two Precinct 11 members. I didn't hear it myself, this is third hand, but someone went up to the police officer, and the police officer told them there's nothing they can do. Now, I took the liberty of talking to the chief of police, and due to First Amendment laws, there's probably not a lot they can do, but we should have a system in place where we protect our 162 members. I think the moderator and the assistant moderator are hiding behind a couple pages in a book that we supposedly follow. But this has nothing to do with the other 161 of us that attended that meeting and did. We pulled off a very good meeting procedurally. We had differences, we had votes, we all went home happy, but one person went over the line. It could have been criminal. And in this day and age, for someone not to take the time and go up there and talk to the individual and make sure that they were all right and no one else was in any danger, I think we really missed the boat as a form of government. This day and age, it's sad how that was handled on Saturday afternoon. And I think you've taken the first couple of steps. We have some principles, but before we leave here tonight, I think we should have some agenda items for actual procedures that we follow. Whether the moderator does it or we do it as a body, we can't let this kind of thing happen again. It's a black eye for town meeting, in my opinion.
So I'll let the moderator
Thank
answer
you.
that. Sure. So I'll let the moderator answer that piece. I can
Yes.
tell you that to answer the piece where you say, when you say we, I'm assuming you mean the COPC, that, at the current standing, I did start looking into what can we do. We don't have an ethics committee. We don't have, I have no trigger as the chair for, call it censure like you would see in the House or the Senate or anything like that. That being said, if at a future point, I don't think we're going to come to terms on what you're looking for this evening, but if we want to make it a future agenda point, who knows, perhaps we need to have a subcommittee that's made up, that comes up with rules that we follow. That being said, when we get to town meeting, that falls under the moderator's scope. So I don't know how anything that we would have, unless it's enacted into the charter or enacted into a bylaw, that would, I don't know how that would, I haven't looked that far into it, to be honest with you, how that would then get incorporated into how the moderator runs the meeting, because we don't run the meeting. You've heard unfortunately, you've heard the moderator say it before. We determine length, but we don't determine scope. So, but that being said, I understand what you're asking for, and I'm more than happy to.
And I appreciate that. And you're right, I didn't expect it all to get done tonight. But we shouldn't be back here a second time before we put some sort of regulations or plans together. And the moderator does a good job running the meeting 99% of the time. But I think if you can't lay all that on him if there's a legal law being broken or someone that feels that they're endangered. I don't know if he's set up for that. I don't know if he anticipated it. He certainly didn't anticipate it on Saturday.
No, and like you said, I don't want to be back here a second time. I didn't want to be here a first time.
I'm with you.
But there is, and I'll let the moderator kind of take over here, but there is a police officer there. If somebody came up to them, I mean, the moderator is not in charge of the police officer, and we also have the chief of police there
No, but
as
what was
well.
explained to me is the moderator is in charge of the room. The police officer would have done, had she been asked.
Correct.
She might have went up and talked to the individual, make sure that there's no danger for anyone else. Someone to have an outburst like that, that's a little bit. You talk
I'm
about the
not,
rest
I'm
of
not
161
condoning the
of us.
outburst. I hope you're not taking it that way.
What's that?
I said, I'm not condoning the outburst.
No, I'm
hope
not, I know
taking
you're
it that
not,
way.
but 161 of us are not on trial here today. We all acted, we voted and we got through the meeting. But one person has now got us talking about things that are wasting time. We shouldn't be talking about these things. Should be addressed. It never happened again. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, did you, or Assistant Moderator, do you have anything you would like to add?
Yes, first of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Costello for his comments. I'm listening to everything, just as I've been listening to everything during the meeting and since the meeting, and I would never hide behind anything. When I reference town meeting time and case law and statutory law, it's because I am bound by it, and you too are bound by it as town meeting members. So I'm trying to educate and create an awareness as to the rules by which we have to follow. As far as laws being broken, at town meeting, I'm the presiding officer as moderator. I'm not a judge, I'm not a jury, and there are things that people have mentioned that they would like acted upon, but there are other forums in which to do that. If you believe a crime has been committed, and if the police do not take out charges, then it's possible to go to the court and take out an application for a criminal complaint and have a clerk's hearing. If you believe that there has been a civil offense, I've heard the word sexual harassment and other words used, then certainly the courts again are available for civil actions. But we're talking about a town meeting, and not to be repetitive, but the reason I cite the book is because it's very clear the limitations that I have as moderator as to what I can do, and I did the warning, and I would have certainly removed the person if it continued. I was unaware of this other heckling that apparently went on, Mr. Costello, as you were unaware. But certainly when things are brought to my attention, I don't ignore it and I act upon it.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So I have,
Can I
just
add
to
to that
remind.
one point?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mrs. Mayor.
Okay, that's okay. I just wanted to, say that I have a real problem with, the comment that was made about us hiding behind a book. The moderator said it much more eloquently than I did with regards to what we're accountable for. I'm a woman, so make no mistake, I support anyone who feels threatened in any space, and that comment was inappropriate. However, if the roles were reversed and we had acted in a way that was overreaching and out of our scope, this would have been a whole other conversation, and a whole other set of people would have been displeased in another way. So let's just keep in mind what happened, the boundaries by which the moderator is bound to, and the other avenue for reporting if somebody felt unsafe.
I just want to go through the order because hands are flying. So I have Mr. Weber, Ms. Murray, and Mr. Brewster, and then Mrs. Alleman. So Mr. Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dale Weber, Precinct 3. I just want to add another suggestion that might be used to mediate this going forward. We're all here as an extension of the town of Plymouth, as you, in your opening remarks, Mr. Chairman, indicated. We can't ever get up and speak and not get away from that moniker that we wear. We're an elected official. So the town of Plymouth, we discussed tonight the guiding principles from the select board. Excuse me, we rehashed the guiding principles of leadership for the committee of precinct chairs. The town of Plymouth, in its website, has a discriminatory harassment policy that you can all view that is applicable to employees, to taxpayers, to business people, or anyone doing business in the town of Plymouth. That very discriminatory harassment policy, which is an updated version of a sexual harassment policy, should be adopted in issues like this outside of a global book that Mr. Trifletti has referenced of town meeting times in other town meetings. So when we're at town meeting, we're an extension of the town of Plymouth. not a other town that might come under an umbrella in town meeting time booklet. So if we just do our own housekeeping and stay within our own boundaries and our own jurisdiction of the town of Plymouth, if you all go to the town of Plymouth website, go to departments, go to human resources, and go to policies, you'll see the discriminatory harassment policy that is very well written, and it takes into account immediate investigation and immediate notification of the accuser and anybody else involved, and rapid investigation and findings to the issue. So just wanted to let people know that that is a document that's out there that is a little bit more locally based than town meeting time. Thank you.
Ms. Murray.
Just quickly, and I apologize, I know other people want to speak. The police officer was spoken to, and the police officer, from what I heard, said, "It is the moderator's decision. I cannot do anything unless the moderator tells me to do so." That's what they were told by the police officer. So I don't know if there was miscommunication. I don't know if it was clear what the police officer's role was in town meeting, but this was the conversation that came of it.
I'm going to, if the moderator would like to speak to that, he can speak to that. Otherwise, I have a few more
Yeah.
to go through.
I'll only say that this is the first that I've heard that someone spoke to the police officer and the police officer wasn't responsive. It's one of the few people with whom I've not spoken, and tomorrow I'll call the police chief and I'll have a conversation.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I have Mr. Brewster, Mrs. Adelman, and then Mr. Leary.
Thank you. Since we're on the subject of people feeling uncomfortable at town meeting, not to belittle what we're talking about, I had a couple of my new town meeting members mention that they were feeling a little uncomfortable by, I'll call them the peanut gallery, but the people in the gallery behind with their applause. And I know you're aware of it, Mr. Moderator, and sometimes you do mention that. I just would be remiss if I didn't mention that I had a couple people mention that, and I think that getting all town meeting member in one spot would help that. Thank you.
Mrs. Adelman.
I must say, I heard noise in the back, but I didn't know what the comments were and what was going on. But when the woman got up and said that she didn't feel safe, my immediate reaction was, where is the safety officer? Because that's what a safety officer should be doing, making us safe. So that's all I have to say. I think, except for that incident, that town meeting went very well, and I especially appreciated the historic performance in the beginning. Thank you.
Mr. Leary.
Kevin Leary for Precinct 1. I was actually sitting just ahead of that person. And I will say that earlier on in the meeting, he was making some kind of loud gestures, comments. I turned around and spoke to him, and didn't seem to make any difference. He just kept on going, and he was particularly loud when we had the vote regarding the health insurance when it was done, and that's when I spoke to him. After the comment, there was a member from Precinct 10 that actually spoke on the sewer line for the airport. That gentleman went over and talked to the policeman. And as I say, the policeman was right kind of beside me, 15, 20 feet away. I didn't hear what was said. I heard part of it, but anyway, it was I'm pretty sure that person was not speaking from the public. He was from Precinct 10. And he asked, aren't you going to do anything about this? I don't know if the officers need to be instructed before the meetings that they have the ability to go and talk to somebody if they get out of hand. But I witnessed the police being talked to, and was by a member. Kevin Lynch actually went up after that and talked to the person who was making the rude announcements, and beyond that, I think he quieted down, but it just wasn't quick enough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Leary. Mr. Trifletti, I guess, take those comments into consideration when you have your conversation with the police chief. Before I move on to Mr. Hutchinson and Mr. Riley, and then back to Mr. Costello, if he deems he still wants to speak, do you have anything to add to that before I move on to others?
No, I'll speak to the chief tomorrow.
All right. Mr. Hutchinson, and then Ms.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Your attention.
Whoever wants to go first.
Thank you. Ron Riley, Precinct 13. So there's some seasoned veterans here along with me. I think I've been doing this for at least 20 years. And so, and Steve has certainly been here that whole time. And he doesn't put up with anything. And I know from what happened, he did not hear what was said. He knew something was said because he did a double take, but he did not hear what was said. And he kind of made reference to that. And so that's in his defense. And I know if he heard what was said, he certainly would have come back and spoken up. With that, I believe what we were just hearing, so I was in the back and I kind of heard what was said, but I believe Mr. Coffin is the one that was at the microphone speaking regarding the airport, and the gentleman that made the comments was on the other side of that. What Mr. Coffin's been, he's against it, and the other one was for it, and once the vote came in, he made a comment to Mr. Coffin. The comment was made to him. No? Okay. All right, that's where I'm wrong. I'm sorry. I thought it was referred to him.
I appreciate that, Mr. Riley. I think what I'd like to do, though, is stay away from kind of judge, jury, and turn this into a trial. I know some people would like to do that. I think it's important to focus on what we're going to do moving forward within our means at the moment, and then possibly, a future meeting conversation about procedures or something like
Okay.
that.
Part of what I was getting to is that just the way the events took place, it would have been different if Steve heard what was said. We would be in a different spot right now. And that it just kind of played out, kind of fizzled out, and then someone came forward a little bit later on, and where do you go at that point?
Sure. Yeah, and I understand what you're saying now. Before I get to Mr. Hutchinson, you still want to speak? Yep, Mr. Hutchinson, Mr. Costello, and then, or I'm going to actually go to Ms. Bragg first, Bragg first, and then I'll go to you. I just want to say that there's some real value that I think, the moderator mentioned, and it kind of glossed over. When I first started attending town meeting, after watching them for way too many years, we all sat in that front area. When we kind of came out of the hybrid, or when we actually were 100% Zoom remote, that's when you started seeing people sit further away to the back. And that may be the a little bit of the hangover of the social distancing at that time when we were coming back out. At this point, we have no social distancing requirements. There is really no reason to not be sitting down in front. And I believe at one point, when I was a town meeting member, when you walked in, there were actual little signs, town meeting, head down to this direction, general public, call it behind the sound stage. So I've actually suggested that to the moderator that we bring that back because I've never been up on that stage. I've been in the front of the room, and the lighting drops off extremely post the sound stage. So it is hard to see what's going on in the very back of that room. To make kind of a weird analogy, it's kind of like sitting in the back of the classroom in high school. It's like you came back into that building and you thought you were going to do that again and get away with things. So I've definitely let the moderator and the assistant moderator know that I really hope that we can push in the fall to have something that directs people. And we'll have to do a lot of that education as well to our town meeting members. Sit down in the front. But I know that they've heard that and they've taken it under advisement. So Mr. Hutchinson, Ms. Bragg, and then Mr. Costello.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To kind of go to Alan's comments at the beginning of this discussion, I think that what he might have been aiming at was a human response to the incident. As in, how do we deal with an event like that, just as human beings? And one of the things that occurred to me was that someplace, and I'm trying to remember whether it was a charter or a bylaw that I've read, had town meeting precincts sitting together. And at a human level, when you sit with your 9 colleagues in a precinct, there's a human reinforcement to behavior. And maybe we ought to think about trying something like that, trying to work amongst our precincts.
Yes, Ms. Gregg.
Thank you, Chair. I was thinking, as I was listening to this conversation, I was thinking about it sounds like the safety officer, police officer was not aware, had maybe not been oriented as to his or her role in the town meeting. So it seems to me that maybe one of the steps that can be taken is that the town moderator and the safety officer or the police chief or whoever might be involved need to be clear with one another about what the processes are, what the procedures are, what the steps are that should be taken by whom in situations like that in the future.
Thank you. So I would suggest to the moderator that add that to the agenda item for the phone call with the police chief. Are there any other further comments from the Committee of Precinct Chairs? Ms. Allen?
This is something else about town meeting? Do I have to stick to what we're talking about?
No, this is a conversation with the moderator. As I said in the beginning of the meeting, if it's regarding specific articles and how things went, or that wouldn't kind of have a moderator or assistant moderator scope to it, then we're going to do that after the presentation that we're going to get.
This is moderator,
Then have at it.
but I think Alan was in front of me.
I'm sorry, Alan. Did you have something to follow?
No, I was actually going to say a lot what Beth said, as far as clearly defining what the police officer, safety officer's role is in town meeting. And I'm sure there's an expense that we incur for security for that whole town meeting event, whether it's that day, other days, maybe the stuff gets guarded during the night, I don't know. But we're faithfully paid the money, and we should at least know what the responsibilities are of that individual and who's in charge in the future. Thank you.
Sure, and I think that once the moderator goes through that meeting in regards to that piece of the scope. I don't think he needs to report back to us on, what was said with the police officer or anything like that. But I think that as we get closer to fall town meeting, perhaps either the moderator or the assistant moderator, we're all going to have a lot of months to work on this and fine tune this, to your point, so we're not doing this a second time.
Very good, thank you.
So I would hope that, and I think that they'd be amenable to coming back into, this is where we're looking to go, Mr. Moderator. Mrs. Alleman, go ahead now.
So I have 2 questions, suggestions, if at all possible, especially during the consent agenda when we're voting on a group of articles. It would be helpful if you could post the articles that we're voting on. I don't know if that would entail a second screen or if it's even possible. And the other question I had is, I've noticed some people have told me they feel awkward getting up, especially walking to the microphone. In the old days, the microphone was handed to us. I was wondering if it would be possible to have a microphone for the people sitting in the middle seats so they don't have to go through the awkwardness of walking up and going to the stand-up microphone. Thank you.
So there's a suggestion to you, Mr. Trifletti and Mrs. Manfredi. Do you want to comment on that?
Sure. First, I would say, interestingly enough, at yesterday's meeting, your idea about posting the article on the screen instead of the emblem of the town of Plymouth was a suggestion, not specifically for the consent agenda, but we certainly would do that as a part of implementing the suggestion from yesterday. So you're right on. And with respect to the microphone, again, I'm going to have to check with the people. And again, we're working with local scene, the Plymouth Public Schools, Center for Performing Arts, audiovisual people, and OTI. There's a lot of coordination that is going together. And again, the assistant moderator, she's on her iPad and monitoring the chat. So I'll address it, but I'm not sure if we can go back to the way we did it years ago, because there's so much technology involved. And in fact, you may not have been aware, but they were having challenges in the morning with the cable cast out into the community. So I'll address it. I'm not sure that we can implement that.
Thank you.
Mr. Costello.
Yeah, I have 3 more quick points, a little bit lighter, for the moderator. And he just touched his credit. He just touched on one of them. I had gotten a call from a fellow town meeting member and asked me to bring up replacing the town logo behind the moderator on the large screen and replacing it with, to Ms. Adelman's point, the article that we're about to vote and maybe a brief description. I don't know if that's a ton more paperwork or work by the producer. It could very well be. It's another 37 slides, I would guess. But someone thought that might be very helpful. And it sounds like they've touched on it, so that's encouraging. The other thing that's a personal thing on my behalf is, I know it's comical, but can we do away with the 1-minute breaks and give someone ample time to get to a men's room, ladies' room, and get back without worrying about voting? I and others walked halfway down the hall and turned around in fear of missing a vote. And I'm not suggesting we do 15 minutes, but enough time to get up and back to that nearest facility. And then the other one that was brought to my attention by people that watched it was the length of the voting results. It looks like now they've adopted, they go through it one time. I don't know if there's a set amount of seconds, but can we afford 2 times, the very least, go through it so that everyone can not only check their own vote, but make sure, I, as a precinct chair, I like to check my other 8 members, make sure everybody's still there, still doing their thing. if there's time in the schedule, can we work on expanding the viewing of the vote? Thank you.
Matt, could I address two of those?
Absolutely. The floor is yours.
Okay, great. So, regarding posting the articles rather than the town crest, we did talk about that. That's going to be an OTI consideration. And similarly to the request for scrolling through twice, which that's been talked about before, that's a reasonable request. The problem is they require, sometimes those articles come up fast and furious, especially if they're articles that have no discussion. And the back end of OTI, they need time to queue up all the other slides. So I'm gonna chat with them about it. It's gonna fall, that ball is in their court and see, but I don't want to give you false hope on either of those two requests. Because those are both, it will depend on how it impacts them queuing up and being prepared for the next vote, if that makes sense.
That does make sense, but I think that, unfortunately, it would have to just come down to, if it takes 35 seconds to roll through twice, then I hate to tell you this, Mr. Moderator, you might have to wait before you read the next article into the record. So, and I've got, Beth, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just thinking about what you were saying about going through the results of the vote twice. Possibly just slow down the roll through so that it's, gives us a chance to kind of read what's up there for a second.
Yeah, we've played with that. We've gone back and forth. I can't remember where it's landed that time. I know that we've gone back and forth, and I agree. It felt really fast this time around. I don't know if it just was the pace. I don't know. But we've had folks who want the meetings to go as quickly and efficiently as possible too. So we're just trying to, balance both sides. But I certainly am willing to have that conversation. They're very open when it comes to things like this, to making those adjustments. It really just comes down to, are they going to be able to kind of keep up with the pace of the meeting? So.
Yeah, the other thing I would just add, which was different this town meeting, is usually the owner, Mike Fight, is present, and he wasn't there. And so we had different people. There may have been a lack of continuity with what we had requested in the past regarding scrolling and what actually happened, and we'll address that.
Thank you, and thank you for the consideration. And like I said, I think when you do all these other findings, just a follow-up, once you feel comfortable that you could do a presentation to us, or not a presentation, but just come in and speak to us about future findings and stuff, let me know, or whoever the chair is, know, and I'm sure that they'll get you right on the agenda. I would also second Mr. Costello's motion on the 1 minute break. If we could at least make it 3 so I could get there and back, that would be great. So, are there any other further comments for the moderator? Yeah, go ahead. Mr. Harrington.
Brian Harrington, Precinct 9. I just wanted to say I was really impressed that you got us through that whole thing in one day.
Yeah. If we go to 2 and 3 minute breaks for the bathroom, we might be 2 days. Are there any further comments? I just want to remind the chairs that now's the time when we go to discuss any articles or any discussion on future articles or anything in the second half. The moderator and the assistant moderator won't be here. So if you have anything, yep, go ahead, Mr. Votrain.
Charlie Votrain, Precinct 4. Having been an experienced audiovisual person for like most of my career, the problem with the wireless mics are they can't keep them turned up too loud, and then you get feedback. And that's why also the other microphones, most people noticed, you'd get up to the mic and they'd go, oh, and they'd whack the mic. That's because the person running the control system had them turned down a little bit so you wouldn't get feedback. Now you give somebody one that roams around the room, it's going to be picking up other sound. So you can do it, but you got to have someone who's, well, like we were just talking about, quick. You got to be able to adjust things quick. Okay? That's it.
Sounds like you're hired. Okay, are there any further questions or comments for the moderator? If not, I'll turn it over to Mr. Trifletti and Mrs. Manfredi if you have any closing statements you want to let us know. Go for it.
I would just say I appreciate the feedback. Seems to me we've got some homework to do, and we'll start on it tomorrow.
All right. Well, I would thank you for both coming in as you do after each session. I appreciate it, and I look forward to hearing from you in no too long a time, I'm sure. So thank you very much. It'll be October. We haven't even hit summer, and it'll be October before we know it. So thank you, Mr. Moderator and Mrs. Assistant Moderator. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to move on to our next item in the agenda, the Comprehensive Wastewater Management Plan presentation. It's a little bit of a typo where it says Citizens Advisory Committee on the agenda, but it's more the mouthful. We did get the presentation electronically this afternoon, so you were all emailed it, but it's going to be shown on the screen here, and we'll go through it. And I'd like to welcome Doug Pinard, who's our wastewater manager, Kendra Martin, who's the water and waste engineer, and if I get any titles wrong, please correct me. And I know Mike Hanlon is online here. He's the chair of the Citizen Advisory Committee to this. But I'm going to give the floor over to you, Mr. Pinard, and thank you for coming.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Doug Pinard, I'm the wastewater superintendent. I'm joined here tonight with Weston Sampson, Nathan. Yep. Nathan and Maeve from Weston Sampson, the group that's working on our comprehensive wastewater management plan. I know you have a busy agenda, so thanks again for having us tonight to give you a little update. Nathan will go through the PowerPoint, and give you a little background and where we are. But we wanted to take this opportunity to reach all of you and hopefully you take back some of the information that you get here tonight to your respectful precincts. So with that being said, I'll let Nathan go through the PowerPoint. Thank you.
Sorry, Nathan, I completely met you when I came into the room this evening, and I neglected to state that you'd be giving this presentation. So Nathan, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Just want to make sure this works. Perfect. Yeah, so this is just a quick agenda for the presentation. I'm just going to go through introductions, the project background, some of the key drivers of the project, where we're at with the project, and then kind of the main objective of being here tonight is our next steps, which includes some public outreach kind of targeted to particular neighborhoods. That's the main reason we wanted to come tonight. And then we're going to end the presentation with some example kind of targeted slides, kind of how we anticipate those neighborhood meetings going. So as Doug mentioned, we're Weston and Sampson. I'm Nate, and I'm here with Maeve. We've primarily worked with town staff throughout this project, the DPW and the engineering department. Last summer, we the town appointed a Citizens Advisory Committee. So we've been meeting with the Citizens Advisory Committee periodically to go over, as we hit certain milestones along this project. We've probably met about 7 times to date with the Citizens Advisory Committee. So just kind of general overview, what is a comprehensive wastewater management plan, or a CWMP? So it's a roadmap for wastewater management in Plymouth. On this figure here, you'll see in red, that's the existing sewer system. This plan is the town, the entire town. So Plymouth has a sewer system, but this project engulfs the whole town. So just wanted to make sure that was known. As part of the project, we go through the existing wastewater conditions in town. And we also go through the future wastewater needs. So we look at the unsewered areas of town, the environmental factors in the existing system, and we create future wastewater loads. We look at growth, things like that. Then we we look at those needs and we evaluate options to manage those over the next 20 years. And that's where we develop a kind of adaptive management plan that the town can use for making decisions in the future. Some drivers for the project is, take stock in the existing system. So the existing plant, the existing collection system, that's all an asset to the community. So assessing the condition of that is obviously a big part of the plan. Water quality, environmental and public health concerns is important. So we're evaluating wastewater solutions such as connections to the centralized system, but it also could mean more localized solutions as part of that as well. Meeting regulatory requirements that are required. Again, the Citizen Advisory Committee has been crucial. Engaging the public is very important to this. Make sure we're getting input throughout all the milestones of the project. And obviously, the plan that is developed needs to be affordable. Make sure that the town can act on it as well. Just some challenges for the community. Even though the town owns their own sewer system, over 80% of the community is not currently on sewer. Another unique factor with Plymouth is the village communities. We have dense communities, dense villages, geographically separated in town. That won't always make sense to connect them to the centralized sewer system when we're looking at our unsewered needs areas. The natural resources, the surface waters, the groundwater, the coastline, that's all extremely important to the community for many reasons. So that protection is one of the challenges. As I mentioned in the previous slide, regulatory permit compliance, continuing that into the future. And then we've also met with other departments in the town over the course of this project to date, just to keep everyone updated on what we're doing, because there's a lot of other planning projects going on in the community. Kind of where we're at, we've gone through the existing conditions. We've looked at future flows, future growth conditions in the community. We've developed some preliminary wastewater needs. And that's kind of leads us into why we're here today. This is a great opportunity to, while we've been meeting with the CAC, the Citizens Advisory Committee, now is a great opportunity, now that we have those preliminary needs, to go out to the community in a more targeted atmosphere. So like I said, we've gotten comments from the CAC. The targeted public meetings is kind of where this comes into play. We'd like to meet with kind of have group precincts into a handful of meetings and kind of go out to the community where we'd be. That's where we might reach out to you after this meeting to see what you might think would be the best way for us to maybe venue things like that, how to reach your precincts. And this is just kind of a preliminary thought as to how we'd handle those meetings. We try to break it up into about five meetings. We'd group the precincts together based on like general vicinity to the village areas in the community. And then Maeve's going to jump in here and kind of just go through some example slides as to like things we'd discuss at those meetings.
Awesome. Thank you, Nathan. Yeah, so as Nathan described, we're going to basically describe the wastewater management assessment that we've done so far, but primarily we're presenting the unsewered needs areas that we've established in these areas. This map here shows the needs areas that we've established in the red outline, and the sewer is shown in green on the top. And these were established based on a number of environmental criteria and concern, like number of parcels, developed and developable, lot size, which indicates density of development, assumed age of on-site system, Board of Health variances with on-site systems, soil characteristics, proximity to surface waters, and surface water impairments, just to name a few examples. The map here shows what we call a heat map, and it basically just illustrates the intensity of these environmental concerns and shows increased challenges with siting on-site systems in a given area. So basically, the darker the purple, the more environmental concerns and challenges anticipated with siting on-site systems in that area. It works. Part of our needs area analysis also included a preliminary priority ranking. And basically, while all the needs areas have environmental concerns, some have more environmental concerns than others. So what we did is we would put these criteria into a matrix and assign them points. And this way we could translate that into a high, medium, or low ranking to help organize our needs area assessment. We evaluated this in comparison to some of our other analysis as well, like that heat map I just described. This illustrates the Manomet neighborhood. You can see that dark purple environmental intensity and concern. And then in our matrix, those areas also ranked high or medium priority. This shows just one example of a more detailed breakdown of the environmental concerns and criteria that we'll evaluate in each needs area, and we'll have the relevant needs area to each area at each meeting that we go to. But this illustrates here, you can see the Taylor Avenue area, a well-known area in town. The flooding is shown in that like dark blue teal color. That's a 100-year storm flooding boundary. You can see wetlands in the area in green, the water resources in the area like Bartlett Pond, the septic system variances are shown in the yellow diamond, and then the density and small lots are shown in the gray parcel outlines. So you can see the environmental concerns and issues that we'll be addressing in these needs areas. Our next step in evaluating these unsewered needs areas is looking at wastewater management alternatives. And the alternatives that we consider for each area depend on the conditions of that area. For example, the Warren Avenue area is close to the existing sewer system and the wastewater treatment plant. So it makes sense to evaluate an alternative like sewer extension of the existing area. However, other areas like the Manomet area, as Nathan described earlier, it's far from the existing sewer system, so it makes more sense to evaluate a solution like localized treatment. The goal of these meetings in general is to get public input and feedback on these needs areas and the alternatives that we will be considering for each of the areas. So the goal is to get feedback on these and the thoughts of the public, but as well as just general wastewater management concerns that the public has for Plymouth in general. So we have an online form that people will be able to fill out. And also the meetings will field any questions or concerns that people have about the CWMP or wastewater management in Plymouth in general. Thank you. That's what we have.
Thank you. I would first ask if there are any questions from precinct chairs. Pompey?
Just quickly, your schedule for these meetings?
We're gonna be in the next month, I would say, 2 months. We don't have a planned schedule yet.
Yeah, we just, sorry. Yeah, we wanted to have this meeting first just to kind of introduce ourselves, and we were going to reach out to the different precincts and try to get some thoughts on the best way to reach out to the different areas. But we'd like to do it within the next few months. Yeah.
Alan?
Yeah, I had one quick question. On the very first slide, you had, I think, a overlay of the system. Is the treatment plant at the airport included on that map?
Yeah, so the Camelot plant is kind of a darker green. It's a little hard to see. All the other kind of lighter green boxes are actually all the private or other non-centralized treatment discharge locations. So if you look to right there, that's the airport.
Yeah, I can't see, but you're telling me there's a light green.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, very
yeah.
good.
So
All right.
there is the airport is shown there. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Any other question from precinct chairs? Yes.
Thank you. As a resident of Manomet Avenue, I'm very happy to know that I now have an unsewered village. It's a new word to me. Could you just please tell me again what it is you said that you thought might be a possible way to get around the distance from the waste management, the wastewater treatment plants, please?
Yeah, so as part of the CDBMP, we review all alternatives. So one of them is no action, just continue as we're doing. One would be potentially advanced septic systems for nitrogen removal. And then the localized would be more of like a package plant, so a smaller treatment plant that could handle a neighborhood or and then in some cases, not Manomet, obviously, you could look at private-public partnerships with some of the private treatment plants in town.
Mr. Weber?
Thank you. I've seen this movie before several times in the last 40 years. What steps do you think you're going to accomplish that the past committees for the past 40 years have not accomplished? We have not expanded our sewer system, and we've been trying to for 40 years. It comes down to money, and what makes you think that now is a time that you will be successful in implementing your recommendations?
Thank you, Mr. Weber. Yes, this is not the first exercise of this program. I can tell you that it's mine. I can tell you that I have a design for Camelot that was approved, funding that was approved previous town meeting. I can tell you that obviously it's up to the town meeting to appropriate funds. I try to look for grants to help with some of that funding, but through this exercise and identifying these needs, I hope to move some of these projects forward that will be beneficial for the town, of course, with town meeting approval.
You good, Mr. Weber? Well, as good as you can be.
I'm good.
Pat?
So is part of this plan to take a look at our present wastewater treatment plant and like, we know it's under capacity. Is it feasible to increase that? Or are you talking about going with smaller systems throughout different neighborhoods?
So to answer some, I guess that's a multiple part question. Yes, part of this process, we have looked at the current treatment plant, its capacity and its condition. We've looked at some of the things that we might need to do to improve the treatment plant. And also, to Mr. Weber's point, when you do a sewer expansion, that would increase flow at the treatment plant. Currently, I have a design for Camelot, potentially. I know that I would like to look at Warren Ave. We've discussed that as part of this project. And with those extensions, they're close enough to the treatment plant where we would increase some capacity at the treatment plant.
So the design for Camelot right now, is that just a repair or is it an expansion?
It would be an expansion. Currently, Camelot Drive, where the treatment plant Camelot Drive itself does not have sewer infrastructure. So it would be an expansion.
I guess I thought the treatment plant was in Camelot Park.
It is.
Pardon me?
The treatment plant is located on Camelot Drive, but Camelot Drive, in the street, does not have sewer. That industrial park currently are all on septic systems.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Mr. Hanlon, did you have any comments? Okay, looks like he's good. Any public comment?
No, I'm not good.
Okay.
You know, I want to make a comment about Mr. Weber's comment. He's absolutely right about ongoing, continuous wastewater planning in the town of Plymouth. If you go back to the original wastewater treatment plant on Water Street, that was built in 1969. That was when that was put online. We did another, it wasn't called a CWMP at the time, but it was another wastewater management plan in 1984. another one in 1997 that led to moving the wastewater treatment plant to its current location. We did another study in 2014. And now here we are in 2026 doing another study. And by the way, these aren't cheap. They cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And our committee has looked at all those past studies. And I would say the one thing that is consistent is the lack of any positive action. So if you look at those studies, 84, 97, 2014, they all talk about the Manomet area. And Nathan and Maeve from Weston and Sampson talked about that on one of their slides. That is, it's purple for a reason, because they have water quality problems, they have septic system issues, they have groundwater issues. And yet we have not found the wherewithal to address those problems. And that, from my perspective, and I think our committee's perspective, is something that needs to change. And, you may or may not know, I'm an environmental engineer. I worked in the business for 43 years. And I'm very familiar with these issues because I did a lot of this kind of work on Cape Cod. And they did the same thing the town of Plymouth did, or has done. They did nothing for years and years and years. And if you pay attention to what goes on in Cape Cod, I do, you probably don't, that has totally changed. They are spending hundreds of millions of dollars to sewer these communities, all because of water quality issues. And in estuaries and in surface waters, ponds and streams and things like that on the Cape. We have the same geology, we have the same environment. The question is, do we have the courage to make these decisions? And as I think Doug alluded to, we would like to see a different outcome this time around than in all the previous studies that have been done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. I appreciate your wrapped up comments. And I know that while I unfortunately had to step out of the room for a moment, there was some discussion here amongst the chairs, but do you have anything further before I move back on? And I apologize, but I have seen this presentation at the select board before, but I look forward to working with you and trying to get the word out, and however you see fit, if we can help facilitate that way, that along its way, let us know.
Mr. Chair, could I add one more comment?
Mr. Hanlon, go ahead.
Thank you. We can't do this by ourselves. We need your active participation and your active support. The meetings that we're proposing to have out in the community are not just for town meeting members and village steering committee members. They're for the public as well. We have a little ability to communicate with them. Presumably you have more ability to communicate with them. So we hope that you will support our efforts and that you will help us get the word out so that people show up at the meetings. This is important stuff. It means a lot for the future of the community, and we need people to come to the meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Wow, you all three did that in unison. That was pretty impressive. So which way would you like me to go? We'll go with Mrs. Adelman. I'm just going to go left to right. Mrs. Adelman, Mr. Weber, Mr. Costello.
Thank you. Are we saying that Manomet is the priority? And if not, should it be the priority?
We are assessing all the needs throughout the town, and Manomet has been a focal point. But I wouldn't dare to say that that's the most important.
I didn't see any other purples.
There was a few areas with some purple on the map. Hopefully you get a chance, I know it's tough to see here, but hopefully you get to take another look at it when it was emailed to you. And you'll see some of the other areas that we're looking at.
Okay, Mr. Weber.
Thank you. So I agree with Mr. Hanlon that this is an important issue. It's always been an important issue. And I understand Mr. Hanlon's comment about we really want to make this succeed. I get that too. I was on committees in the past. I was a wastewater treatment plant operator in this town for 12 years, received awards for the most improved treatment plant with the team that we had built. But then the town decided to, under a consent decree, we had to build a new plant. So here we are. But I have very vivid memories with the rest of the community. And don't take this the wrong way, because sometimes it's my approach that has you take things the wrong way, but please don't. What I'm saying to you is, when we experienced a major rupture to the sewer line back in 15 years or so ago, the rest of the community washed its hands and said, this is a financial burden to be borne by the enterprise account, not by the rest of us. And Mr. Hanlon and I went round and round on this issue, and it's still very fresh in my mind, that when we ask the community to now get behind an issue, I just can't put that thought out of my head, that the community had no buy-in when our treatment plant was in trouble. And I remember speaking very passionately to the members of the outlying community, that every time you pump your wastewater septic system, we treat it at our treatment plant. So that is still very germane point today. But either the whole town has to buy into this financially. And what I've seen from this community in the last 25 to 30 years, this town doesn't want to raise taxes. So we can look for all the grants we want. When you get a grant, you're either paying it out of your left pocket to the federal government or the right pocket to the Plymouth government. So we all know how governments work. Sometimes the wheels turn slowly, sometimes the wheels turn backwards. I've seen the movie before. Thank you.
Mr. Costello.
I actually was going to ask, and it sort of dovetails with what Mr. Weber just said. By full disclosure, I know zero about this issue. So it's sort of abstract to me. So if you were going to develop, say, the Warren Ave, or just say the Camelot Park area, as a taxpayer, what does that involve? What is the cost? What is the disruption? What would happen? You know, the Reader's Digest version, what would it do to develop that park and get it on the system?
What would be the initial cost to do the project?
And what would that be? I mean,
Well,
talking in abstract, and just ballpark, what is the number? I'm not gonna hold you to it, but are we talking $50 million to take care of Camelot Park, or is it $5 million?
no, not 50 million. I mean, if I had to guess off the top of my head, maybe 10 million. It's still substantial. Obviously,
Where is the cost? Where is the big cost of that 10 million, ballpark 10 million, not to hold you to it, but where is the cost in that 10 million? Is it putting the pipe in the ground? Is it tying people in? Is it updating the
I would say
facility?
the installation of the infrastructure, because part of the issue with Camelot Drive also is we would have to also have a small pump station, and have to pump it to the treatment plant from a lower elevation that's on Camelot.
And that's gonna lead into what I've often thought driving around, and I live in West Plymouth, so I've been driving out Federal Furnace for the last year, and there's been a huge water project out there. You're more familiar than me about it, but and I know this is piecemeal, and maybe it doesn't make any sense, why at that time when that street was open would we have not put the infrastructure in for a septic system? Or not a septic system, but a septic line. Now, maybe we can't afford the pump stations at this time, but you have the pipe in the ground while the road's open. Is there any forethought to do stuff like that?
Yes, there is. While I can agree with you, while the road is open, why not put some infrastructure in? But at this point in that area, it wouldn't make sense from my point of view, because first of all, it's not called out and part of where we would focus in a more important area where there might be some impact to water quality. Also, to not be able to plan it out enough to have enough infrastructure and to pump it from that distance from there to the main treatment plant, we wouldn't know if it would be feasible to say, well, while it might make sense, we have the road open, why not throw some sewer pipe in the ground for potential future use while we have it open? It just would, in my opinion, at that point, would be kind of throwing good money after bad.
I understand, if in that particular location, you're right, but other sections of town get, work done.
Yes, so anytime that there's any type of road work that gets done, not only does myself, when there's any paving, myself with the sewer department, the water department, we all get notified of any road work, as well as the gas company. So the town doesn't want to go in and reclaim a road or pave a road, and then, like you said, go, hey, well, we should have did drainage in that area. We would look at all those things before the road gets paved.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Costello. I think one of the questions you had to us was, how do we kind of coordinate the different precincts and stuff? And, you have my email from earlier today, but if you work with myself and Kristen is a great, she's our administrative assistant. So she'll be, I'm sure, more than happy to help us coordinate that effort. So just feel free to reach out to both of us.
Very good.
Or the, the vice chair wrestling as well. Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions or comments?
I would just.
Yep, go ahead.
I would just add that there are a lot of associations that might be willing to go out and try and get people to come to meetings, some of the watershed associations and pond associations.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. And thank you for staying here with us and coming in. I know that you wanted to get this before us, so I appreciate it. And thank you, Mr. Hanlon. I know you're online. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to the next piece. This is what I've spoken about a couple of times. This portion of the Springtown meeting review is just amongst the COPC chairs. This should pertain to any articles or discussing anything that you see regarding kind of that piece, nothing procedurally or anything. I think we kind of went over that a lot with the moderator. So are there any questions or comments? Mr. Brewster?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody for joining me in the journey of trying to cut the budget. Just a little bit about how I went about this. I basically took the town manager's 1% cut budget that he presented to the select board. Lynn Barrett and Jeanette White were unbelievably phenomenal. I did come in late in the hour and they assisted me in getting everything implemented. The reason it was multiple articles was because that's how you have to do it. I will say that I was under no false vision that it would all pass. My main objective was to start town meeting having this discussion. We are in a fiscal crisis. The finance director gave a great presentation to the select board last Tuesday saying we weren't at the fiscal cliff yet, but we were at a fiscal crisis. And it's something that we need to start looking at. And I just wanted town meeting to not just trust FinCom up to the last moment. And the discussions I had with a lot of members and a lot of the community was town meeting gets it, 2 weeks before, they get their books 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks before town meeting and start looking at the budget. Yes, you can pay attention all the way through, but I would dare say there's a lot of town meeting members that this is the first time they've seen the budget. The interesting outcome of this was the discussion that I had on town meeting floor. I made sure I went to almost all of the department heads to talk to them about this budget, say nothing personal, I'm just looking at the budget. And every single one of them said, we were prepared for this 1% cut. We were prepared for it back when the town manager presented it originally. And one of the best comments that I got was, I'd rather do 1% now than 3 to 5% later. And it was interesting because these are people who have to have a budget. And I just caution town meeting that when it comes to budgeting, we can't keep using the credit card of the taxpayer. And the other comment that I kept getting was, well, we're gonna have to lose services if we cut taxes. If we don't start looking at our budget in a really productive way, we are gonna lose services. If we don't get a handle on it, we can do things other than services. When I was talking to the department chiefs, I was like, I know when you are asked, what would you cut for 1%? You're gonna come with 6 policemen and 7 firemen, et cetera. But if we were to say you have to cut 1%, I remember, was it last year or the year before when they had the level funded budget, they found ways to cut that didn't cut the services. So I'm happy that we've had the discussion. And I'm really thankful to the members of town meeting and the community members who have come up to me and said, thank you for bringing this up. I didn't vote for it, but thank you for bringing it up. So, thank you.
Thank you, Wrestling. I had Mr. Hutchinson, and then I had Mr. Weber, Mrs. Alman, Mr. Costello. I think I'm just going to, and Mr. Riley. Okay, well, we'll get there. But the usual suspects, so I'll just go in order. So, Mr. Hutchinson.
Thank you. I appreciated the presentations by town manager and the finance director at the select board's April 7th meeting, just as Wrestling mentioned, because what they went through were 2 major pieces of our fiscal pipeline. And that begins actually with the town manager talking to the department heads, works its way through to us eventually. But there are pieces of it. And Lynn went through the piece that the finance department has to come down to and look at and make judgments about, along with town manager. What she said was that in 2 or 3 years, we're facing a fiscal cliff. And what the fiscal cliff what that means is that we've run out of excess levy. I won't go into that, but basically, we don't have any more. We don't have any more slop. We can't play with stuff. We don't have any wiggle room. And what that means is an override, or something like an override, or basically. I wanted to thank Wrestling for bringing that up as a conversation that we need to have. I mean, it may not have passed, but the fact is that every time you got up there, you said, we have to have this conversation, and we haven't had it yet. And it's a really important piece of work for all of us. Proposition 2.5, I have to tell you, I embrace it totally, which is to say it's not just a cap to our funding resources. It also comes with tools. It comes with an override, and it comes with excluded debt. And an override is a tool. Lots of towns use the override to figure out, where do you want to make cuts? They're given 2, 3 choices on a ballot, and pretty soon you figure out, what do I need to cut? What do I need to raise? And how do I figure out, what is the amount of money that I need to make the town work? And so I think we shouldn't be shy about an override. It might not pass, but that'll tell us something. And I would urge the select board, as leaders of the town, to help us out in that regard. And again, thank you, Wrestling.
Okay. Mr. Weber, Mrs. Adelman, Mr. Costello, Mr. Riley.
All right, thank you. Back in December, when the town manager gave his budget, and he used the words fiscal cliff, December of 2025, people reacted to that. And I think Wrestling reacted at our town meeting by going into the 1% cut and the exercise that he brought up. But Wrestling, you did it again tonight, where you said we are not at a fiscal cliff, but we are in a fiscal crisis. The words that Lynn Barrett used were, we are at a fiscal challenge, not a fiscal crisis. She predicted that, and those are her words. And I think Deb Iaquinto in the audience tonight, she specifically asked Lynn Barrett, well, when do you think we reach the fiscal cliff? And Lynn Barrett said 2030, 31, 32, but all depending upon what happens in that 5-year forecast. So I find it difficult to go through the exercise that we just went through at town meeting, debating a 1% cut, when we're faced with issues like this in front of me. And this is why I took the position I took several minutes ago and said, I'll go one step further. I don't think there's anyone in this room that will see this materialize in your lifetime because of the dynamic that's out in Plymouth right now. And I always will focus back to a statement that a prior selectman made, Anthony Shenna. If you want your roads paved in gold, give us the money, we'll do it. That's where we are. That's where this community is. And no one wants gold roads. And that's just the way it is. No one wants expensive. These projects that we saw tonight are going to toll in the 50 millions of dollars for these improvements. Are they needed? Yes. Will they happen in Plymouth? My prediction is not in our lifetime. But thank you. That's why I have a hard time squaring with presentations at town meeting, wish lists for department heads. They're all great, but they don't move the needle. Thank you.
Mrs. Adelman.
This isn't popular, but there are just so many things that the town needs, like the water system. We need an override. But that said, the rescheduling of town meeting, I'm wondering why it was never brought up that it be put back to a weeknight. We used to successfully have town meeting on weeknights. Is there any appetite to go back to that?
I don't know who you're looking to have answer that question. I mean, that's, I can give you my personal opinion, but I don't think that's weight, worth its weight in gold as far as moving the needle on that, to pave the streets in gold for Mr. Weber. But I think that also comes down with logistics, because if you look at doing it during weeknight, if you want my honest opinion, adjourned session, was that supposed to start at 6:30 or was it 6? 6. It would have been this past Monday night. But if we're doing it all during the week, I mean, we went from 8 o'clock in the morning until 5:30 at night. you're going across several evenings. And right now, we know that we can, and we have successfully gone through the whole town meeting warrant in one day. And we've had meetings where it's trickled into a couple nights. But I think that we would be there again this evening. And, you know, I think the idea of getting more people involved, you know, I constantly hear from this body and from the general public that we'd like to see younger people involved, you know, people that have young families involved. And I think when you start to go those multiple nights, maybe it becomes a deterrent. I'm not sure. But there's a cost to that going multiple nights because you're remobilizing OTI, you're remobilizing them each night. But I think you could feel free to contact the moderator to see what he thinks. But or the select board to see if they want to put that forth next in the fall to go multiple nights. That would be, I think, the direction on that. Mr. Costello and then Mr. Riley, I think I had.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been participating in a town meeting 12, 13 years. I've enjoyed it. I've left the meeting on a Saturday afternoon, sometimes happy, sometimes frustrated, sometimes disappointed. But this past Saturday I left, I was sort of sad. To Mr. Weber's point, anyone who's been paying attention knows that we've been talking about budget and fiscal items since December. January, the world was going to come to an end. February, the news was just as bleak. The last meeting prior to town meeting, it got a little bit diffused, and that's encouraging to some degree. I give Mr. Brewster a ton of credit. He went up there and tried to prompt some action by town meeting. And that's where I think town meeting as a body missed a boat. We had an opportunity as a group to participate and to help the select board, help town management. And I think we missed an opportunity on Saturday. I don't know the exact number, but we said no to very little. And I thought for the first time going in there Saturday morning, there was going to be a movement to make some tough decisions. And they're not pleasant decisions. I don't enjoy making them. But I thought there would be a consensus that, you know what? We got to get involved and we got to make some tough decisions. I didn't see it. You know, the meeting went fine, and I think everyone came out of it, and the town's going to go on for another couple of years. But eventually, someone's going to have to make a tough decision. And I thought we were ready to do that on Saturday. And not lecturing anyone. I have my own way of dealing with it, but I was just sad when I left. I think we missed the boat. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Costello. Mr. Riley.
Thank you. I'd just like to ask if we could, we spoke about the voting earlier. Is there any way to have that posted on the town website? They have 7, 8 different areas under town meeting that you can look up.
Do you mean by
The result, the full
individual
results, not just
the vote
yes and
totals that we
no's,
got?
but I mean, an accountable.
Oh, apparently that material has just come out today, Mr. Brewster. If you do have it, because you requested it, if you could share it
Well,
to me,
if
obviously
they
for
could
now,
just
but I hear.
post it in with the rest of the town
Right,
meeting stuff.
exactly. I can talk to I'll ask the town clerk.
I
if
think it'd be
she's
easy
looking at
enough-
it. I
enough
do
to
know
do.
at one time it used to be voted, I mean, it used to be in the annual report for the town as well, how each vote went and who voted for what, so.
Right.
But I can talk to the town clerk. I think even this day and age, being online makes more sense anyway.
Should be easy enough.
So I can ask for that, and either it will happen
Okay.
or I will tell you why it can't happen.
Thank you.
There's only 2 ways it can go, so.
Very. And then I think it went into a few long evenings, town meetings were going, and it was, I believe, Kenny Howe that actually suggested to bring it to Saturdays.
To move the question to Saturdays?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I think that was it.
Yep.
And it makes sense, you know, I hate losing a Saturday, but, you know, I'll give it. This is very important. So just quick history lesson there.
Sure. And I'd like to, are there any other comments? Yeah, go ahead. Mr. Harrington.
I find as a town meeting member that making a decision on budgetary issues at the last minute is a little daunting because you don't know what's at stake. You haven't been in the discussions on what's needed in a budget and why. And I think that kind of conversation. Sorry. I think that kind of conversation, if we're to have it, should be done as soon as possible after budgets are thrashed out and way ahead of town meeting.
Sure. So you gave me a great segue to what I was about to say before I saw your hand. So, as you know, we had a number of articles that increased kind of that budget timeline where it's being worked on, hence why town meeting went further out. And I always know when Bill Cahane's in the room. Yeah. And let me go back to where I was going there. What I'd like to let you know is that next month, I did reach out to Derek Brindisi and Lynn Barrett. And if you looked at the end of our agenda that came out today for the May 21st meeting, they're going to come in here and talk about, it might be a little bit updated, but the same presentations that they gave before the select board on the revised budget timeline proposal. And I think that that's going to be very educational for all of us. And hopefully we can get that deck and share it with our other town meeting members. But also pay attention to that, because when we talk about if we can, like Mr. Harrington said, if we can see the budget earlier as it's been, but the beauty of the way that our government is set up, whether you like it or not, one of the pieces that I think is the beauty of it is that you can get involved from day one. You can, all of these things are discussed publicly. And I think it kind of hits on what wrestling says as well, which is, while this seemed like an exercise towards the end that he did, it doesn't need to be. It could be done well in advance. And then actually when we're getting presentations on the articles, you've all the town meeting members have had their input either with advisory and finance, the select board, or whenever these articles are going before us. So, but I think that, the May 21st meeting with that, and then the 5-year fiscal forecasting model, to whether it's a crisis, a cliff, a speed bump at this point, I don't know what anyone's calling it. I hear different words every day. These are going to be great questions that we're all discussing to have with the finance director and the town manager when they're here before us. But I hear you all, and whether which direction we go, the most interesting thing that I'm hearing this evening is that everyone seems to be in agreement on the same page as to we need to do something. But there's only 18 of us here. There's 162 of us all together. So if you truly feel that way, that's when you go to your caucuses and speak about it there. Any other further questions or comments? Yeah, Ms. Gregg, and then Mr. McKay.
I'm
Greg,
glad.
I don't know why Greg, I don't know why I keep messing that up tonight. I apologize.
It's a very uncommon name. Yeah, and I do brag a lot. So my question, I'm very glad that you just brought up what you said about the town manager and the finance director coming to speak with us. And I think when they do come, it would be helpful for, at least for me, to know at what points I can get involved in these discussions about the budget.
That's part of that budget
Good.
timeline proposal that
Yeah.
Derek is.
Because
part of that
I'm
presentation.
very interested in the extent to which the complexities that we're operating in are being really considered, because we don't operate just in a vacuum. There's a lot of competition for the same types of industries and corporations and companies that we would like to attract to Plymouth. There's just so much going on in the world now that it would be really interesting to know sort of the extent to which those complexities are being considered and how they're being considered. So that would be helpful.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that, I know that some of that, of what you said, is encapsulated in that presentation from when I watched it. But those are all fair questions to ask, for sure. Mr. McKay.
I just wanted to reiterate something I said at town meeting. It took a minute and a half, 2 minutes to talk about additional revenues we could get and additional things we could do using volunteer services. One of the important things, I think, is to put this stuff on the table, as wrestling did. And number two, I think it's important that we get involved early on in the budget process. So I agree with everything everybody has said tonight. The one thing I want to do is, when we get on early in this process, I want to confront, and maybe that's the poor way of saying it, but I want to ask each department what they're doing to take some of their needs off of paid-for town people and put it on volunteers. And I think I should ask that to every single department very early on, and I think it'll be very interesting to get their comments back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McKay. Anyone else? Mr. Weber.
Thank you. My last comment. The issue here is early on is good for everyone. And the budget process starts in October. And all you have to do is go to the town's website and look at the meetings. And you can know that you can go and you can see the preliminary rollout of each division of each department. And you can ask your questions there. I want to give a personal shout out to Ginny Davis of Precinct 4. She summed it up at town meeting Saturday. At the end of the exercise to cut the budget, she put it forward on why she voted against those initiatives was because it came in at the midnight hour. And, you know, a lot of work was done to present a balanced budget. And that's why I voted against all the motions, because a balanced budget was submitted. And if you have problems with a balanced budget, then you need to start early in the budget building process. Town meeting members are not part of the budget building process. We're part of the budget approval or denial process. That's it. But if you get involved and go early, you're part of the budget building process. Thank you.
I think you said it more eloquently than I did, but yeah. Any other further questions or comments? What's that? No. You can speak during public comment. It is after we have new business, old business, and then public comment. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep a little order of the decorum here in the room, so I apologize. Either that or next month, kick George out of your seat and you can come say. All right, any further comments regarding the articles within town meeting? Okay. Hearing and seeing none, we're going to move on to new business. I have a couple items, and I know Mr. McKay has an item as well. One was just that I handed out the Plymouth Hometown Cleanup. You all have it. I know you've probably all been paying attention. A little slight difference this year is that they do request you to kind of sign up. So there's a website there. There's also a QR code, but it's going to be on Saturday, May 2nd, 2026. Rain or shine, let's all hope for some sunshine while we're doing this. The other piece, some of you may have received through the Plymouth News and updates, the 2026 board and committee open application period is ongoing right now. It goes from about April, well, not about, it goes from April 15th through May 22nd. So people are encouraged to go to the town website if they want to get involved and get on any boards or committees, that they could go up there, and you can search through it, see what the openings are, and then apply online. I know, Mr. McKay, you had a handout. Did you want to speak to it?
I just wanted to let everybody know, we had a meeting last night, the first meeting of the Plymouth 250th Anniversary Committee. My belief is we should have started on January 1st, but we didn't. We're almost halfway through the year. I handed out the list of the organizations that are part of the committee and those people that are representing them on the board. We elected Patrick Brown as the chairperson, and we talked about how starting late in the year is not helping us. But the first thing we decided to do was plan a second follow-up meeting very quickly and have all these organizations tell us what they're currently doing to honor the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And we expect to have that list within the next week or so, because one thing we don't want to do is have a lot of events and have them conflict with each other. We want to have them complement each other. So everybody now has the list of who the people are, what organizations are on the committee, and if you have any input, you can deal directly with the people involved in the organization, and if you can't get through to them, you can get through to me. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McKay. Any other new business? Hearing and seeing none. Any old business? Mr. Costello.
No real time frame, but the first chance we get is an agenda item. Can we go over the rules that regulate town meeting, whether it's town meeting times or maybe an alternate?
Are you asking, is
I
that
brought
have
this
to
up,
go
I don't know,
through
6,
town
8
meeting
months
time,
ago.
which is we've
What's that?
adopted? Are you asking me to go through the town meeting time rules?
No, I know we've
Okay, I was
adopted
like,
those,
that's a
and that's,
book.
those are rules. No, I bought the book. It's an interesting book to read. I encourage
Yeah.
everyone to try reading it. No, I'm not suggesting, I do suggest that those are the rules that we follow today. But I'm wondering if we might take a short time in an agenda item to review those and make sure those are the best rules that we could be using. See if there's any alternate.
So I'm just trying to shape this. So are you looking for what either other towns or something, what other possibilities to govern town meeting?
Yeah, the Robert's
well-
Rules of Order, I mean,
Right, I got you.
when did we start using town meeting times? Why do we continue to use it? If it's good, let's keep using it, but we should, I think, review it, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Did you get that, Kristen? I think I got it. So if not, I'll review the tape later. At this point, I am going to open up public comment. I know a number of people here have been waiting a while to speak. Mr. Williams, I know you tried to come up if you'd like to speak, but as with all public comment, if you could state your name, yes, you could state your name into the record, and we stay about 3 minutes. So go ahead.
Don Williams, I'm Precinct 8. I just wanted to say, in addition to the CWMP presentation, I appreciate that this is going to be a difficult project because it's going to be expensive. It's going to involve a lot of time. I'm impressed with the consultant, part of the CAC, the group that's actually going to be trying to promote this, which is a very important part of it. But we're also going to be looking at funding for this so that it won't be such a burden on people. And the other weapon that we have is we don't have to do it all at once. And part of this process is going to be to come up with an order and do them perhaps one at a time, 2 at a time, whatever it takes. And that's going to make it a lot easier to finance it. The beauty of Plymouth is that there's 400 or so lakes in Plymouth, but it also comes with a responsibility. The responsibility is to keep that water clean. And unless we come up with a plan to sewer a lot of Plymouth, we're going to have problems, increasing problems as things go on with those water bodies. So that's all I wanted to say. And thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Williams. I know probably the topic that you would speak on. I just want to make sure that we're all aware that, we're not, the COPC isn't here as a judge or jury in this matter at this point. So, but you are welcome to your 3 minutes for sure. So go ahead.
Thank you. And Joel Coffin, Vice Chair of Precinct 10, not asking anybody here to be judge or jury. But I am here to sound what I believe is a serious concern regarding the Airport Commission's recent action and the precedent they set for us as a town. Before I do that, though, I do want to recognize Moderator Trifoletti's comments earlier today about civil discourse. I hope we all agree that it's critical to the very challenging discussions we have in front of us as a town. Unfortunately, we didn't get to have that discourse in regards to the airport. In 2024, the town installed a Citizens Advisory Committee to ensure the neighborhood voices were heard regarding airport expansion after the 2024 attempted expansion failed. At town meeting last week, the commission stated publicly and received confirmation from another commission member and fellow town meeting member that he had discussed this with neighbors. However, the record shows otherwise. A simple review of the commission's minutes, which I have here. Sorry, one copy, you're welcome to share. Over the last year reveals that this sewer extension was never raised with the neighbors or the advisory committee, with the exception of a question that was raised to the commission in the commission meeting 1 week prior to town meeting by me. The commission is claiming a level of transparency that is flatly contradicted by their own official documentation. When an appointed body represents one reality to the public and to this body, and then another, and their minutes reflect another, we have a serious accountability problem. Their strategy is expansion by stealth. By placing a sewer extension on the warrant without prior neighborhood discussion, the commission chose a stealth path to enable expansion. They bypassed the very committee established to prevent this kind of move. I recognize the vote has occurred, and we must call this what it is, a deliberate effort to circumvent the public process. Further evidenced by the DPW director stating that the airport came to him about the sewer line supporting expansion, which all of you heard in his comments at town meeting. The environment this creates was on full display as my colleague and I returned to our seats after speaking against the article. We were met with a shouted derogatory taunt from a fellow member towards my colleague, the son of a commissioner. It is important to understand the context of that outburst.
Can I just ask how much more time you might need?
A minute?
That's fine. Yeah.
Thank you, appreciate the extension. It wasn't just a lack of decorum, it was an expression of victory. It was the sound of members who were satisfied with pulling one over on the neighbors and on the people that were speaking. And this body as well, they felt emboldened to mock those of us asking for transparency. When the thrill of a win through a lack of disclosure outweighs the respect for town meeting, the integrity of our process is at risk. Last week's vote is done. We're moving forward. However, I'm asking this committee to keep a close watch on the Airport Commission. We cannot allow stealth articles to become standard operating procedure. I urge you to look at the minutes yourself that I've shared. The gap between the commission's claims and their actions is wide, and it is our job and your job as leaders to close it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other further comment? Public comment?
Good evening.
Ms. Lantang, if you could just
Steve
state your name.
Lantang, new resident of Precinct 18. I want to start the meeting off, and I really applaud you folks for the discussion you had earlier and about the event that happened Saturday. And I'm one of the people that went to the police officer after the event and asked if they could do something about it. And she said, no, I take my direction from the moderator. Then I asked her, well, can I put a complaint into you? And she looked at me in deer in headlights.
I think that will, I don't typically comment on this, but since we aren't in charge of the police department, I think that is going to stay within what the moderator said that he was going to ask.
Okay.
I don't want to start berating an officer in their response when it's not our responsibility to either investigate that or know what
Fair enough.
that
Sorry.
possibility is.
You would think there would be no safer place in town than being in the same room as all the top Plymouth leaders, town members, police chief, as well as many other residents that participate in our government. Apparently, we were wrong. As we understand, there are very few consequences when events occur like the intimidation, retaliation, and sexual harassment that my wife Lisa endured at the Springtown meeting. This conduct is appalling, yet apparently, as we learned, there's very limited things we can do about this behavior. Lisa's absence tonight is not because of disregard for this body, but it's because she has been shaken. Her public surface demeaned by the degrading sexual slur yelled at her by Jeff Fosdick, using her name loud enough for much of the auditorium to hear the commotion. The fact that nothing was done in the moment is difficult to comprehend. She does not want to continue to potentially subject herself to any additional intimidation that she and many others have experienced over the years by the Airport Commission. At the Town Spring meeting, comments suggested that the residents had misrepresented the facts. Basically, Mr. Merrill and the Chairman Fosdick called us liars. Similar implications were made at the Townfold meeting. As we always said over the years, if the residents' statements are incorrect, please provide us with the documentation. Specifically, as you heard, we have been unable to locate meeting minutes or records showing that the Airport Commission held a public discussion, a public vote as required by town warrant article processes in the Massachusetts open meeting law related to the 2 warrant articles submitted for this last town meeting or for the prior articles in the fall. Here we are once again addressing the Airport Commission's ongoing lack of transparency, and it represents failure to act in a manner that serves the interests of the entire community rather than a small number of special interests. This pattern needs to change, and we can change that. We have going to have 2 openings in the Airport Commission that is in the hands of the Select Board upcoming. And to serve on the Airport Commission, residents are not required to have aeronautical experience. It was validated by the Airport Commission's own lawyer last summer. It's recommended you have other people on the board not related to aeronautical, including the residents. This is consistent with Massachusetts law and statewide airport planning guidance, which requires that only 1 commissioner has aeronautical experience. The remaining members are intended to represent the town in the broader community. I urge residents to engage, to step up, reach out to the Select Board in the town to demand a commission that reflects people most affected by its decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lindsay. Any
I will
further?
take questions.
No, we don't do that with public comment. But I appreciate the effort, right? I'm sure people would be willing to talk to you afterwards. That being said, any further public comment from within the room? There are no people left online. If not, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
All right,
Seconded.
seconded, and this meeting is adjourned 9:23 PM. Thank you.